we got She-Hulk. I mean, we're gonna talk about
Mhm.
She-Hulk. We got that. You just finished watching that. So what was your quick? We'll to get more into it with some like spoiler talk here in just just a little bit, but because I you brought to my attention a hot toy that just got announced that we're gonna have to talk about first. But having just finished She-Hulk, what were your initial thoughts of She-Hulk? Did you like it?
My initial first reaction is I really liked it, but not what I expected. So, yeah, that's
Yeah. I mean, I have the same general impression. I liked it more than I thought I was going to like it. I thought it was
mhm.
really better than as far one interesting thing, I know I said we're gonna talk about this hot toy figure first, but one interesting thing I did discover, it came out in a report that the showrunner initially came out and said that this first episode it's kinda loosely implied, but she said that the origin episode was actually slated to be, like, the 8th episode in the series, and this was the origin episode. So, interestingly enough, this debut episode was supposed to be the penultimate episode of the series, and I found that to be kind of interesting, and obviously, I think it was definitely the right choice to have this episode be the first episode, 'cause I don't know
Yeah.
how else you would've introduce the character really by not I feel like this was the right move to have this episode first, but I
It
do
definitely I
or
would say it feels like it could have easily been slotted in as the 8th episode, though. Just the tone of it and everything, like, it really felt like that was when I mean, I don't know how deep we're gonna get into this, but, um, the show, the way it was presented and the way they've been marketing it and everything I've heard about up until this point was that this was a half-hour sitcom comedy show, and this didn't feel like that to me. This was very much a kind of superhero origin show, and
oh
and
yeah.
so that's what I meant by like it was not what I expected out of it. And I guess we're going to get more into what they've been promoting it as we go along, but
That's why sorry, I know I look like an idiot right now, I'm trying to fix my glasses to kinda not have the reflection of my light on them. There we go. But I totally agree, and I think that's one thing I've seen a lot of people say that it wasn't as funny as they were expecting it to be. But kinda to your point, this episode, especially if this was supposed to be a latter episode, the penultimate episode, if you will, it makes sense that, this episode would not be in the funny, slapsticky courtroom comedy sitcom vibe because I mean, for all intents and purposes, this was the superhero origin story. So that wouldn't be the funny part. The funny part would be everything else we're gonna get. That's why I think it was a mistake. If you remember when I first messaged you and said that we should talk about, She-Hulk on the show or She-Hulk on the show, I for whatever reason, I thought they announced a while back that they were releasing the first 2 episodes of She-Hulk, but I must have got that confused with something else. I think I probably got it confused with Lord of the Rings, that Lord of the Rings show. They recently announced that they were gonna debut with 2 episodes. So,
well,
my assumption is I got those mixed up, and I feel like they should have definitely released a second episode given that this episode does not accurately reflect the tone of the rest of the series. You know what I
yeah,
mean? What
yep.
were you gonna say though?
I was just going to mention that they did. I mean, they did the double episode reveal for Obi-Wan.
Mhm.
And then they did it. They did it for another series, like maybe I don't know. I don't know that they did it for Miss Marvel. I can't remember now, but they've been doing the double episode drops for the first when for the shows when they premiere lately. So it made sense that when you said that they were going to drop two, I was like, oh, that makes sense. But yeah,
Right.
clearly they went against that.
Yeah, I just feel like, we might as well just go into the She-Hulk stuff since we're talking about it in a sense I
You want
have
to
to cut
continue
around
here?
this. Hey man, we might as well get through the She-Hulk stuff first. So,
Okay.
but nevertheless, I it made me think of like The Boys because The Boys, even though they were in season 3 at this point in time,
Sure.
but they still release the first 3 episodes at like when the season starts. And it's like, yeah, they
Hmm.
don't even have to do that anymore because the Boys already has its built-in audience.
Sure.
And releasing more than just the first episode, especially of a new series, is so much more highly beneficial when you are looking at a brand new series because if you just get especially this being only like a 30-minute episode, and when you couple that with the fact that this episode that we got really, like I said, doesn't accurately reflect what the rest of the show is. I feel like of all the shows they should have released 2 episodes for, or even 3, considering there's 9 episodes of She-Hulk,
Mhm.
should have been this show. Because, like, we got this first episode that was really good. I liked it overall. It was way better than I thought it was gonna be. Not that I thought it was gonna be bad by any means. I just didn't expect it to I didn't expect it to have as much, like, you learn a lot about Hulk in this. Like,
Yeah.
we learn more about Hulk in this, and Bruce, than we have in the entire MCU, like,
Yeah,
in
there's a lot of
anything.
mythology building that they do with the characters, the Hulk, the idea of a Hulk in this.
Yeah, and I thought all that stuff was great. Like, I coulda
Mhm.
watched the whole thing, the whole episode. That's the kind of the unfortunate thing about Disney not owning the distribution rights to the Hulk, because I would have loved to have seen just, he was talking about Tony and the blip, and, like, he spent the 5 years there, like, learning how to become Professor Hulk, and, like, him and Tony were obviously hanging out a lot there. I'd love to see that show. Like,
Mhm.
I would love to see that and their interactions and Bruce's inner struggles, because you guys imagine in that time period, he hasn't become Professor Hulk yet, so him and Tony are down in this lab trying to figure out a way for him to merge the identities, and you coulda had a really interesting, fun show, and maybe a potentially pretty dark show out of that, because he's still going
Sure.
to, like, not Professor Hulk when he transforms to OG Hulk, so it could have been good. But I don't know. That's what did other than the fact that, I mean, despite them not this episode not really accurately reflecting what the rest of the show is going to be, do you think that this was a good first introduction despite that, or do you think, like you said, you kind of said already that you thought this could have been later in the season, and you thought maybe it would have worked fine. But what do you think about that? Are you excited for where the show's inevitably going to go?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing it will do is, I mean, it gave us a good look at the Jennifer Walters character and her personality and stuff, and she's an interesting character. I liked her in this. She I don't know. I'm very curious about how when the decision was made to move this episode up, and whether or not that required some filming. If they had to film additional scenes, or if like pre-production they made the decision to bring this one to the front, and then it was a shift that was made before they filmed anything. Just because there were like the Tatiana, is it Tatiana character that shows up, like she kind of just the villain that shows up at the end. She's
Oh
played
yeah,
by some woman named
Titania or
Tatiana.
something. Then
Titania, is that what
yeah,
it
the
is?
character is like Titania or something. I forget the
Titania.
actress's name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, she just shows up kind of out of the blue, and like there's no rationale as to why she's there. There's no Jennifer Walters then just transforms into the Hulk, and like there's no establishment of as to whether or not the world knows that she's Hulk or not. Like, I mean, I guess there's a little implication that she's not, but there wasn't any forethought to like whether or not she should. It was just like go be the Hulk, and she's like, okay.
Mhm.
Like, so all that felt like stuff that maybe, like, if it had been slotted as the eighth episode, would have already been established, and you would be like, oh, okay, yeah, it makes sense. She's going to be Hulk now. Um, so I'm a little curious about how that all played out. Now that you mentioned that, but it felt like, to me, it just felt like it could have easily slotted in as eighth. And I've seen other superhero shows and stories do that, where they bury the origin until later in the show or the series, depending on what it
Sure.
is. And I think it could have worked, but this definitely, I think the one thing that this will do is it will draw in anybody that was an MCU, that's been an MCU fan all along. I mean, obviously, if you're an MCU fan, just the premise alone should be drawing you in. But I think the fact that there was so much Mark Ruffalo and so much Hulk and so much, like you mentioned, mythology building with the Hulk, the idea of the Hulk, that's going to really draw in and invest you more into the series if you're a MCU fan. So that was all cool.
Well, that being said, how much more of Hulk do you think we're gonna get? Because if anything, I don't think he's gonna be in any more of the series until the very, like, last episode and maybe even just a post-credit scene. Like, I don't think he's gonna be in it anymore at all.
You think it was just this one?
Mhm.
I mean, I'm hoping that I guess what I'm hoping is that to me, it felt like they were really establishing this. I'm trying to find the best correlation. To me, it felt like they were establishing the Luke leaves Yoda to go to Cloud City element of this, where she's not going to finish her training, and it's going to come back to bite her, and she's going to need to finish it at some point, and so we would get that return. She'll call, Bruce at some point and be like, "Look, you were right. There are things that I don't know, things that I didn't get." That I need help with, and that he'll show back up for something like that. But you're right, that could very well be a last episode, a penultimate episode type deal.
Well, see, the funniest thing is too, like, about that is they pretty much established in this episode, whether it was supposed to be the first episode or the 8th or not, they clearly established that she's beyond needing his help anymore. Like, she was it was clear, they made it very clear she's able to 100% control the persona of, like, she there is no alter ego like there is for Bruce. She can turn it on and off at will. There is
Mhm.
no, like, they had the great exchange about how, the was it fear and whatever, the women line where, like, this is
Anger and fear, yeah,
yeah,
it's
it's
a
like,
state that
that's it.
all women live in, yeah,
Yeah, exactly, like, they had that good exchange, and it's all true, it's like, she is good, and then there's really nothing, at least in my mind, when you are a Hulk, it's not like learning the ways of the Force. There's nothing really to learn. Like, so if you're able to just if she's able to already do what she can do and turn on the Hulk form and turn it off at will, I mean, once you Hulk out, you're hulked out. That's your power. You're just invulnerable and super strong. So, like, I feel like they really established that. Like, at this point, anything aside from, like, I don't know, moral support, there's really not much more. If anything, Bruce might be able to learn some stuff from her at this point.
yeah.
Weirdly
I just
enough.
yeah, I guess I'm just wondering if there's some, like, she says that there's no other voice, if there's no she's such a new Hulk too, though, like, I wonder if that's not something that will develop later on in her, if that's if there's a million ways they could take it. I feel like there's a chance that there could be another Hulk personality buried, and maybe she's just so her force of will is so dominant that she's able to suppress that and isn't even aware of it yet. Um I think there are ways that they could introduce some complications where she would need him, but you're right too. I mean, it would actually, I mean, it would be fine if they didn't bring him back. I was just kind of contemplating ways that maybe he would need to come back. It just felt like that whole scene where when they get into their fight and he's like, "Look, you've been doing this for 3 days. I've been doing it for 10 years. Like, there are things about being a Hulk that you are not considering yet." Um, it felt to me like he even said, what was the one line? Because I just watched it. He said, "Why would you not take the advice or the help of somebody that's been doing this for 10 years when you've only been doing it for a handful of days?"
Mhm.
And to me, like, that felt true. Like there's going to be complications with her being a superhero. Like, what happens when the bad guy makes you choose between saving somebody or stopping them, there are just those kind of dilemmas that Bruce has probably faced before that she's never faced, that I think her jumping the gun and leaving a little bit felt a little premature, and that they could work him back in with.
Yeah, I could see the one thing that I think obviously would be an easy way to bring Hulk back in any sort of capacity, really, is the big glaring obvious one is that she's going to be asked to represent Abomination eventually, which has obviously a direct tie to Hulk. So she could just call him up on the phone, discuss it with him, or whatever. But even in the trailer, we see that that whole issue kind of gets squashed right away by the head lawyer or whoever her boss would be at that point, who when she declares that well, representing him would be a conflict of interest because he tried to kill my cousin Bruce, and he's like, that's not a problem. Like,
Yeah.
and so like they just move on, and then Wong shows up. And here's one thing. Now that I brought that part up, I think if you remember, obviously we have this is a another theory time with Rob here, because if you know, just flash back to the hour long Kang X-Men thing, not going to be that long of a thing, but I have a strong inkling that, I mean, given the fact that we know a Thunderbolts movie is coming, and unfortunately we've lost William Hurt, and I don't really think they were ever going to make William Hurt be Red Hulk anyway, but nevertheless, Red Hulk is a traditional member of the Thunderbolts. It seems to me, just like you heard it here first, because I just want this on record if this actually comes to pass. I think there have been some hints that, for whatever reason, that it's still left to be unknown, but Wong is maybe going to be involved with recruiting members of the Thunderbolts, because I think that is what he's doing with Abomination. Because in the trailers, we saw Wong, and granted, they cut the dialogue up so we don't see the full exchange, obviously, but it seems like after she gets asked to represent Abomination, Wong then shows up in her office. She obviously doesn't want to do it, right? But her boss is obviously going to make her do it. But she doesn't want to. But then all of a sudden, Wong shows up and starts saying things like, we're on a precipice, and like, you know, all these things, like, and trying to persuade her to do something. And the only thing he would be persuading her to do is to represent Abomination, because we saw in Shang-Chi, he was sparring with Abomination and
Mhm.
doing these things at the, like the underground fight club. So the question is, why was he doing that? Well, it seems like he knows something. Like there is some threat out there. He's a Sorcerer Supreme now. Maybe he's just doing it because of what happened in Doctor Strange, and they were so caught off guard when one person, be it the Scarlet Witch, showed up and just wiped out Carmitage with no effort. And like, so maybe he's doing this out of his own kind of just needing some more self-defense stuff. But like, I to that point, if you're not gonna do Red Hulk, and you quite, you know, quote unquote can't really do Red Hulk the traditional way with Thunderbolt Ross,
Mhm.
Abomination being the stand-in or the representative of the Hulk figure of the Thunderbolts would work pretty well. That was my
Yeah.
roundabout way of explaining that Abomination will take the place of Red Hulk in the Thunderbolts, and they're using the Wong relationship in this show to explain how and why Abomination will be, you know, a quote unquote reformed citizen. What do you think about that?
Yeah. No, I mean that totally works. I mean, you're right. They do need if they choose to go that route, they would need a substitute, and he would work perfectly in that. So I like that. It works well. Hopefully they follow along those lines if that's the route they're going. The Thunderbolt show, I just don't know what to expect with that at all. I mean, that's so
Movie.
it came out of left field, or I'm sorry, movie. It came out of left field for me, so I'm still kind of unsure what to think about all that. But yeah,
Well, and that's the thing too with the Thunderbolts bit. We just still don't even know what. I mean, I guess we could kind of theory craft who that roster would be. Like Secret
it's
Agent.
got to be Zemo, right?
Yeah, Zemo. I imagine Zemo for sure. Secret Agent and Yelena.
Hmm.
Abomination. Maybe Deadpool,
Is
since he's coming.
I'm gonna because I can't for some reason I can't come up with her name. Is Elaine Bennis? Is her character going to? Is she going to be the recruiter for the Thunderbolts?
That was my initial thought, but then the Wong recruiting Abomination thing kind of like made me think, well, what's he doing? Why would he have any sort of inkling to want to even be sparring with Abomination and doing anything to help reform him in any way, shape, or form? Like,
Hmm.
so maybe he's like kind of doing this stuff off the books and trying to like, I don't know how it'll tie in, but Abomination, clearly the only real role he could play, reformed or not, but if you're going to reform him in any way, the only thing he could do is be a member of the Thunderbolts. Like, what else could you possibly do with that character? Even if you try to make him a good guy, he's not a good guy, so it's like you can't
Yeah.
really just, like so it's just kind of odd. Like, so I don't know, but I imagine Elaine was kind of already set up to be the person recruiting the Thunderbolts at this point, and she could even step in now that William Hurt's just unfortunately passed, since we don't really know what her status is as far as, like, in the government, but she obviously has some sort of connections. So she could honestly just be kind of put in William Hurt's old position as, like, the Secretary of Defense or whatever government official title he had.
You can also tie Sharon Carter's character in there. Um, and then Taskmaster didn't die at the end of Black Widow, did she?
I don't think
I
so.
don't I don't remember her dying at the end of Black Widow, so technically she would be out there too to throw on the team.
I don't see
Right there,
well,
you've got a pretty broad team right there.
I mean, yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, like, Zemo really doesn't do anything. He's
He's
literally
the
he's evil Bruce Wayne. That's
Yeah,
that's all he
yeah.
is. Like, he's got a cool mask, and he dances real
He's
good, and
rich.
he's that's what I'm saying, he's rich, he's got a butler, and he's got a cool name and a cool mask, and that's pretty much all he does. But
Mhm.
I love the character, he was gr I honestly, I didn't love the character in Civil War, but I love the character in the Falcon and Winter Soldier, that was
Oh,
great.
yeah.
Like,
I thought he was great in Civil War. I mean, I loved I mean, he definitely is like a, strategist,
yeah,
he's the
strategist, yeah.
strategic guy. Like, he could come up with, he could lead the team. I think he would be whatever missions they go out to do, he could easily be the one to do the hows of how they get the job done.
He could be the man behind I feel like John Walker what do you think John Walker would think
Oh, that's
about that,
true.
though?
I didn't even
Because
think about him.
I could see him being in a place now where he, like, might be a little more subdued and, like, would
Yeah.
take point given what happened with him trying to be Captain America, but you gotta keep in mind he has the super soldier serum running through him, so he could just be kind of a loose cannon. We don't really know how he's gonna be after that, but he did have his own little redemption arc at the end of that series, so he might be kind of like, okay.
Yeah. No, that's true. He would be a good substitute or he'd be a good member to throw on there too. But that
Yeah,
would be that would create some. Although that's always good. It's always good to have conflict on the team. You saw how it worked out between Tony and Steve. So
right.
having the conflict between the two of them would make it more interesting, I would think.
Yeah. Kevin Davis said that She-Hulk in the chat here, he said She-Hulk and/or Hocus Pocus 2 Willow Disenchanted will bring subscribers to Disney Plus. Potentially. I don't know. Honestly, I don't think Willow's gonna bring any or I honestly don't think
I don't
I don't
know.
know Andor I
Okay.
think would be the most, like, I feel like anybody who's interested in any of those titles is already subscribed to Disney Plus. You know
I
what I
don't
mean?
know. Hocus Pocus, like Hocus Pocus 2, he might have a point with that because they're like I work at a library and every Halloween, Hocus Pocus comes around and we have people just out the wild, people we've never seen in the library before, coming in, look, trying to track down Hocus Pocus. Like that movie is beloved on a scale I never even knew about. And I think it's because it's not in my wheelhouse. Like I don't know. It's not something that was ever on my
Did
radar.
you
It's not
never
like
watch it?
I've never seen Hocus Pocus.
You
No.
never seen Dude, Hocus Pocus I love Hocus Pocus. I used to watch it
Well,
all the
that's what
time when
I'm
I was a
saying,
kid.
like, people absolutely love that movie. I think that could really drive some subscribers for 'em. I
I just
that's a
I feel like anybody who's interested in Hocus Pocus is already subscribed to Disney Plus for Hocus Pocus. That's what, like, I just feel
maybe.
like and then Willow, I don't think is gonna be as popular as I really don't think it's gonna really do much, honestly.
Mm,
The trailer they wasted my time with at Star Wars Con or whatever the hell what is it? What is the Star Wars thing called again? Star Wars Celebration. I was so annoyed that they opened up Star Wars Celebration and I had to sit there and watch Willow presentations. Like, I
yeah.
just I'm this is not Lucasfilm Celebration. It's
Yeah.
Star Wars Celebration. It was so annoying. And then, but despite that, I just didn't think the trailers looked all that good. And I never
Yeah.
cared. I don't even remember if I ever saw Willow when I was a kid. So I had no nostalgia for it. I just saw it and I was like, this doesn't really look all that good.
There was, there were a whole slew of movies in the '80s, fantasy movies in the '80s, Neverending Story, Dark Crystal, Willow, things kind of in that vein
Mm.
that were huge for a lot of people. And I definitely think, I think to your point, if you're into genre stuff like Star Wars and stuff like that, like I think you're probably already subscribed anyway. So I'm not sure how many more subscribers that drives for them, but there could be some people out there who just, they don't have, they don't have a mystical fantasy type area to them right now. I'm trying to think of anything, any of their, anything in the Disney Plus realm that kind of fits in that fantasy beyond like the animated Disney movies.
They don't have a live action fantasy anything really.
Yeah, yeah.
They
So
have it in the works. They have Percy Jackson coming.
okay, so
That's
I think
really the only
Willow,
thing.
if they can draw some people and maybe some additional eyeballs with Willow, if it does well for them, that could maybe launch something there for them. It could also just be a quick nostalgia hit for a lot of people, and then that be the end of it.
Yeah. I mean, if it's good and there's enough word of mouth, then I could see it drawing in subscribers. I just feel like 9 times out of 10, anybody who's interested in Willow is just probably already subscribed. That's just in my mind, I can't see anybody who just loves Willow and wouldn't already be subscribed to Disney Plus for that content to begin with.
Yeah.
Hold on, give me one sec.
Yep. So anyway, I loved She-Hulk. It was really good. Anybody in the chat watch She-Hulk? Did they what'd you guys think? Anything? Nothing? I was just asking if anybody in the chat possibly saw She-Hulk and what their thoughts were on it.
Dude, to bring it back to She-Hulk, I thought it was good.
Yeah.
I am
I thought
interested.
that we actually we mentioned, I think we mentioned this. I don't think we've talked about it on stream yet. I think we were mentioning when we were setting up, but um the animation, the CG actually looked a lot better than anything I had seen in any of the preview stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I even made a comment to you because I was literally finishing the episode while we were setting up. It looked like they spent some money on that fight, the Hulk versus Hulk fight at the end. It looked like they spent some money on that. It all looked good. Like I was never pulled out by the CG the way I was in some of the trailers. In some of the trailers, I had a hard time. And you pointed out that they've had what 10+ years that they've been working with the Bruce Banner CG, the Hulk CG on that. I think that definitely makes a difference. The one thing I actually noticed in this, because I was looking at the just the skin textures and everything, it, Hulk being a hairier character, there's something about hair, I think, that makes it easier to mask CG, because looking at Jennifer's arms compared to Hulk's arms, like it's just I think it's easier to see. Hers are just green, like, so you really have to pull off the pores and skin and everything perfectly. With his, they can kind of mask some of that. You've got, he's got hair on his arms. It kind of masks anything that um, may be going on with not perfecting the skin tones and the skin textures perfectly.
Well, that's what it is. It's not so much masking it. What it is all of those hairs and the stubble and like with Bruce in particular too. It's not even just that stuff. He's got all these wrinkles and all these
Sure.
like just all the texture. It's just everything on his face, just the finer details and imperfections that are naturally on a human face. They do that on Hulk. Like he
Mhm.
has these little like just like he's got crow's feet, and you know what I mean. He's got all these things, but this is where however many years of Hulk CG R&D and feature film CG budget have been dumped into making this character look the way he does. Whereas She-Hulk, she was created on this show's budget,
Yeah.
which even though they have the model and like the textures for the Hulk character, they still have to rig the 3D model to do everything it does in the show. So there's still a lot of time invested in just rendering out and animating the Hulk character.
Yeah.
But with She-Hulk, they had to do all of that, but also design the whole rig, the whole model. And with her, the problem is she has no imperfections at all. And to your point, the hair and stuff kind of just I don't really think in my head canon, I don't think of it as hiding CG as much as it just lends itself to kind of counteracting the uncanny valley because it just makes him look so much more human, even though he's this big ass 9 foot tall green dude.
Yeah.
Because his face has stubble and wrinkles and is very human looking, especially in Professor Hulk mode, where he really does just look like Mark Ruffalo, just
Sure.
9 foot tall and green. But with She-Hulk, she's all smooth. She has
Yeah.
no imperfections. There is no subsurface. I mean, they have subsurface scattering, but like because there's no imperfections on her face, instead of getting nice different shades of skin tone, it's just green,
Yep.
just smooth green. But to your point and my point that I said before the show, it looks infinitely better than any of the commercials did.
Mhm.
And that was obviously just because the commercials had to go through God knows how much compression just to be on YouTube and any other site that's out there. But like you look at like Hulk looks pretty real for something that's obviously
Oh,
fake.
sure.
Like that he
Sure.
looks really good. And I mean the same can be said for Thanos, the big purple dude. Like no matter how many times I go back and see anything from Infinity War, like that big purple dude, like, you believe him. Like, you think
Mhm.
he's a real being there. He doesn't really like, if you're really looking for it, he's CG, but, like, I've never been taken out of anything that had, like, Thanos in it or Hulk in it, really, like, I always buy it, and if anything, when I'm seeing them, what I noticed before the face and stuff is the clothes. The clothes end up looking more CG than the face does, just because the
Yeah.
cloth, it's like, it's just harder to make it look natural, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard to get, like, a clear it was smart on them, there's really not a good solid, like, clean plate shot of She-Hulk. There's always a little bit of movement, so it helped hide it a little bit more. Because even, like, I pause a still frame here, and she's still, like, kinda slightly out of focus.
Sure.
Like, so it's like that kinda stuff is small, but it does help with making it look more real.
Yeah.
To wrap up the She-Hulk stuff, we both liked it, it was all good. There's supposed to be a ton of cameos. Who do you think we're gonna see in this thing going forward? Like, you think it's gonna be like here's some things that like I think might be interesting to see. The Defenders from Netflix,
Yeah.
Luke Cage,
Well, we
Jessica
definitely.
Jones. They might need some help. Punisher, Frank Castle. He might get in trouble with the law.
Yeah.
We know Charlie Cox is there.
Yep. Well, that's the one. I mean, I think of all the guest spots, that's the one I'm most looking forward to is when they hopefully. Well, I mean, we saw it in the trailer when Daredevil shows up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it would be awesome to see Punisher show up just for the confirmation alone that John Barenthal was back in the role and like back in the MCU. That would or not back in it. I guess I don't know because those shows were supposed to kind of be in the MCU and then
Yeah.
they weren't and now they're not. So anyway,
MCU adjacent.
yeah, it would be nice to have confirmation that his Punisher exists in our MCU proper. Um, and Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, yeah, all of them. That would be amazing. That's a lot though for one show to bring all those characters in with a kind of pulls all the attention away from
It's I
her.
the only thing I would actually Yes, I mean, that's inherently there. I'm trying to get my lights better because I feel like you can see how red my face is? It's hot in here, and the lights aren't really helping. Um, this being a 9-episode, 30-minute procedural sitcom, it's essentially a monster of the week style of show. Granted, I haven't seen these other 9 episodes or 8 episodes, but given the vein of that kind of series, you go in and you have a new case every week and you do your thing. There's new characters, new villain, whatever it may be. And if they do that, you could have one episode be Luke Cage needs legal help, Jessica Jones needs legal help, Punisher needs legal help. Maybe Daredevil comes in and he's defending Frank Castle against her being the prosecutor. Like that would be fun. Like you could have like there's a rumor that potentially because the show breaks the fourth wall that I don't really have too much legitimacy of this besides somebody online obviously who supposedly knows somebody who worked on the show, said that there's a scene where they actually go to like Marvel headquarters. So like Kevin Feige could potentially cameo in this at some point.
Sure.
And then like by extension, I saw a good theory for like having a Deadpool cameo would be if they included that into the Kevin Feige cameo and just had like Ryan Reynolds his voice on the phone like talking to Kevin Feige and
Mhm.
like I like that could be kind of fun. But I mean I remember in all there was God, well, I think it was like a showrunner or something. Like they confirmed there were a lot of cameos, but like they also like really heavily reinforced the fact that like it's She-Hulk show. Like so
Mhm.
I don't find it I have no concern that there's going to be any confusion in the fact that like this is a She-Hulk show, like despite the cameo and any amount of cameos. But I do agree that like just throwing him in there to throw him in there could be kind of stupid, but at the same time, the way this show is supposedly going to work, I see a lot of those kind of cameos being on the table.
Yeah.
But
We
I
need
don't know.
I need to mention this too real quick. Because it was talked about so much how this is a sitcom style show. And you've mentioned too a couple times where it's like a half hour. I, maybe this is my age showing, but I really bump up against that because this episode alone, if this is kind of where the wheelhouse for what the episodes are going to be, this was about a 35-minute show. And
It was only
traditional,
30. There was 8 minutes of trailer or 8 minutes of credits and 30 minutes of show, if I remember correctly.
okay,
Well, I have
um,
it. Hold on, here. I got it pulled up still. Let me pull it up. Look, we're at
yeah,
19
30,
credits, 30 minutes.
yeah, 30,
8 minutes.
33, 33 with your post credit scene, 33 to get through your post credit scene,
Well, we
right?
got 30 when the credits start, and then you go all the way. The post credit scene is what, like another 30, 40 seconds. So we're looking
Yeah,
at
yeah, about
31 minutes, 7 minutes of credits.
yeah,
That's where
yeah.
we're at.
But to get to the very last frame of the show, which is the end of the post credit scene, you're at 33 minutes. Um, Traditional sitcoms on TV are like 23 minutes. This is about a third longer than a traditional sitcom. So I was just not that I'm complaining. Like like it felt like a longer. It was not the brief concise thing that I was expecting it to be.
It
And
did.
so
It felt longer than it felt longer than it did shorter. I'll give you that.
yeah, yeah.
But I still am not a fan of the 30-minute stuff. Like I'm more of a fan of 45 minutes, like an hour. Like The Boys, dude, that was hour-long television every
Oh
week.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and there's no commercials. There's like even credits aside, you're looking at 55 minutes for some of them, but like those were hour-long episodes. And you
Hmm.
can do so much more in an hour, obviously. You know what I mean? It's especially problematic with a lot of the shows I just outright didn't like, they weren't very fulfilling. Like Miss Marvel was honestly like the most fulfilling show since WandaVision, really. I mean, I enjoyed Falcon Winter Soldier, but Moon Knight, I loved Moon Knight, but like the damn thing was just too short and it just ends. Like it's just
Yeah.
everything's just so rushed. They just, if they either added 6 more episodes or even if they just had 6 episodes that made them an hour long, that would be a 12 episode thing for Disney Plus being like 30 minutes long each time. It's just not enough time for them to do everything they're trying to do.
Which is an I mean, we're kind of veering off topic here, but which is an interesting point because they've announced they announced that Daredevil it's an 18 episode thing, right? Isn't that what
Yeah,
they said? 18 episodes.
they
So
did.
how in the world, like they've been keeping these shows kind of at the 10 episode and under mark, not even 10 episodes really. I mean, 9 for this, but their half-hour episodes seems to be kind of the hour-long scripted ones seem to be more in like the 6-hour mark. So to get Daredevil to clock in at 18 episodes, I'm really curious what their rationale for that is. I mean, obviously, I'm all for it. Give me 18, give me 24 episodes. I don't care. Like, just give me more Daredevil. That's great.
Mhm.
But I don't. I'm curious why that warranted that, versus maybe saying like just a second season. Is it where they did they have a story they wanted to tell, and like they were worried that the higher ups wouldn't give them a second season, so they were like, "Hey, we're not even going to present it as multiple seasons. We'll present it as just an 18 episode season." Like it's very some of it's very strange how they're going about it. It's
It's honestly a very bizarre thing because I feel like the 6 episode mandate was given by the higher ups because they wanted to keep the shows cheap. So they just had to rush everything in 6 episodes. In no way do I think any actual creative behind the show wanted to make those shows 6 episodes long. Like
yeah.
that seems like a mandate from someone in a suit because we've seen all the shows that were 6 episodes and they didn't end well. Like I mean, look at the only one that ended well, granted, was Miss Marvel. But WandaVision was the only one that felt vaguely fulfilling. Falcon and Winter Soldier was pretty good all throughout, but could have been a little bit longer. And then honestly, I would go as far as say the Falcon and Winter Soldier is probably like right under, at least as far as all the stuff they were able to actually flush out. It
Mhm.
was probably right under Miss Marvel. I thought Miss Marvel was a little bit more fulfilling, but so it's like WandaVision, Miss Marvel, and then Falcon Winter Soldier. And then Moon Knight, even though it was inherently my favorite of them, it was also the worst of them because it was so rushed. But I feel like it's with this Daredevil thing, I'm of two minds. Is one, the suits just finally realized how many people were complaining and just how unfulfilled everybody kind of was with the 6 episode stuff. And like, because we were getting She Hulk now, it's 9 episodes. So maybe whoever mandated the 6 episode stuff has lifted that mandate a little bit. So if whomever was writing Daredevil said that they wanted it to be 18 episodes, then they were just okay with it. The only thing that's weird, it's like I have a joke explanation for it being 18 episodes and that they're all like Quibi length. If you remember Quibi, they were like 5 minute shows. So
Yeah.
every episode is going to be 5 minutes. And then the other one is like if they're going to make an 18 episode anything, why not just make a movie at that point? Because like especially if they're going to be like 20, 30 minute episodes, you're looking at like a what I don't not going to do all the math right now, but it's like pretty close to like one or like a one good 3 hour or so movie. So you could probably condense that down into just a nice tight movie if you have 18 episodes of television you could do. And then the other kind of, I guess, quote unquote theory would be that the Daredevil thing, just the Born Again series itself, isn't going to just be a Daredevil thing, but it'll introduce a lot more of the street level heroes and tie into like Echo and She Hulk maybe introduce Defenders and just do a lot of this stuff kind of at the same time. And that's why it's 18 episodes. Because it
No.
does seem very odd. No, Daredevil was on for 3 seasons, very successful 3 seasons, and they were not 18 episode seasons. So it is a very weird thing to say, we're going to do this. It's going to be 18 episodes. Like, why? So they obviously have something they're trying to do. And if you think about it, if they normally do 6 episode seasons, that's practically 3 seasons of their 6 episodes at 30 minutes. So we have She-Hulk that has Daredevil in it. We have Echo that has Daredevil in it. And then we have Daredevil, which is going to have Daredevil in it. So that's 3 shows. I feel like maybe all these things are going to tie in, and that's why it's going to be 18 episodes, because they're like essentially backdooring that show to be like a Defenders kind of show.
Yeah.
That's my best guess.
Yeah. I mean, it
Unless
could
they're all 5-minute episodes.
it could be. I wonder. I also wonder too if they are. I mean, because that's the other aspect of the Daredevil show is, are they going to be building off of what happened on the Netflix show? Is it going to be a mature rated program? If they're trying to bring it down to kind of the subject matter level of the rest of the MCU and not have it be mature related, then they might be reestablishing the character completely from scratch to account for maybe parents who don't want their kids to watch the Netflix series, and trying to subtly, relaunch it fresh, and so they feel they need the 18 to kind of establish a show. I hope they don't do it. I hope they're okay keeping it mature. I hope they're okay finding that balance and being like, some of their content just isn't going to be for, I don't know. We'll
I
see.
mean, they did introduce the rating thing on. They have the kid accounts and they have the non-kid accounts. They have R-rated stuff on Disney Plus right now.
Yeah.
It's just it's locked
No, no, I
behind
know that.
I mean,
I'm
they
just
could.
saying I'm just saying like while they have it on there, they haven't actually come out with a show that's mature rated for
Oh yeah, they haven't for
Disney
sure.
Plus, or
Right.
for I'm sorry, for the MCU yet. There hasn't been a rated R MCU movie. There hasn't been a rated R MCU show yet. Not that there can't be, and not that there won't be. I hope that I hope they go that route. But if they don't, if they're trying to bring the Daredevil character out of the Netflix bubble where it was a hard, mature rated program into more of the MCU bubble, um, then that could warrant the 18 episodes too. Especially if you're trying to get to Born Again, which requires you to have a lot of character establishment as far as the relationship between Matt Murdock and Karen Page, and the Kingpin, and all that goes in with that storyline. So
Do you think how here's the thing though too. Do you think they're even going to, because the MCU it never does one for one, like Civil War was nothing like Civil War in the comics. Age of Ultron was
sure, yeah,
nothing like
no.
Age of Ultron in the comics.
So you're
Do
saying,
you
are they just borrowing the name?
pretty much? And then
Yeah.
second follow up to that is because like I when I first saw the Born Again thing, obviously I went to Frank Miller's Born Again, right? But sure, um, the second thing I went to was that sounds an awful like the fun naming convention they do or they did with Spider-Man Homecoming.
Hmm.
Because,
Oh, sure.
like, sure, it took place. It was Spider-Man Homecoming because the
He
homecoming
was coming
dance
home to
happened.
Marvel.
But yeah, it was really they came home to Marvel, and I feel like
It,
Born Again is the same kind of wordplay where it's like it's Daredevil and it's Charlie Cox, but he's born again here in the
yeah, we had it.
MCU.
We had a Daredevil show. It died, and now Daredevil's coming back. He's going to be born again
Yes,
on the
but in
MCU
the
world. Sure.
MCU, yeah.
Yes. No.
So
No. I think you're 100,000,000,000% correct that that's exactly why they named it that. Um, but just as the Infinity Saga pulled elements from, some of the classic Marvel stories, I'm hoping that they pull at least some elements from the Born Again story. I think it would be a little depressing if we didn't get some nods to that, some elements of that story to work in.
do you think, sticking with Daredevil, Do you think they are going to even use the Foggy Nelson actor and the Karen Page
Mm,
actress from the original series? That's the big question.
yeah, I would hope so, but I mean, especially bringing Vincent D'Onofrio back as Kingpin. Um, that show, I mean, I don't think you're going to find too many people that think that there was anything wrong with that show. It really feels like that show,
Well, there
for
was
lack of
nothing
better,
wrong with that show.
it feels like that show. The only reason that show isn't still being produced is that Marvel decided that they wanted to bring everything, or Disney. I'm sorry, Disney decided they wanted to bring everything back into the fold.
Mhm.
They didn't want anything out there at another company, especially with Disney Plus, and then Netflix being competitors. They didn't want Netflix hosting exclusive Marvel content when they have their own platform. So I feel like that's the only reason that that show isn't still going. And that being said, I don't see how you can justify then recasting those roles or not bringing those actors back.
Yeah, I don't know, it part of me thinks that those characters either will be the same actors or they're probably just not gonna have those characters. I don't see them recasting them
Mhm.
for whatever reason, just because I feel like it put a weird taste in people's mouths because you brought back Vincent D'Onofrio, you brought back, Charlie Cox, but then why didn't you bring back Foggy? Why didn't you bring back that guy? Why didn't you bring back the Karen Page person? That's, like, all the
Mhm.
conversation would be, so it might be easier at least I also, though, I don't see how you do anything that resembles Born Again and you don't have or just Daredevil in general, and you don't have those 2 characters, so that's also
Sure.
kind of a problematic thing.
Yeah, not
I
having Karen Page and Foggy Nelson is those are 2 Daredevil mainstays, like, yeah.
Yeah. So it'd be very strange for them to do anything without those characters in general, but
Yeah.
nevertheless, for the sake or you got anything else you wanna add about She-Hulk?
No, I mean, I'm right there with you. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it actually maybe more than I thought I would, and, the CG was better. I like it. That was a big worry for me was the CG going into it. I thought it looked great. It didn't pull me out the way it did in the trailer, so,
That
all in
was
all,
yeah.
a thumbs up.
The CG was probably, like, in the back of my mind, something that was always there. It's just like, well, how 'cause especially, honestly, after seeing the Moon Knight CGI, it wasn't that good. Even p in the show, not just the compressed trailers, like, you can go on Disney Plus right now and watch the scenes where Moon Knight transforms into, like, the Mark Spector version with the hood. Those transformation scenes have god awful composition. It looks so fake when those, wraps are coming out over him. It doesn't look good at all. Like, even though I instantly ordered that hot toy as soon as it dropped, and this is amazing looking. I love the suit. I love the show even though it was way too short, but to that point, the CG was my biggest concern because if it was just gonna be like CW Flash level CG because they're trying to make these shows on the cheap, that's a really hard thing to do when both well, your main character at least, but you have Hulk in there for this first episode anyway, when they're your primary characters are full CG, it's not gonna be fun to watch. But nevertheless, I pulled this up. This was a great segue from let us know what you think about She-Hulk down in the comment section below.